So by now you've heard the reports and everything about Dillon Brooks. We know what he represents. He's one of those type players that, will do anything he has to do to help his team, whether it's something possibly dirty, or he'll go as far as saying, a bunch of subliminal words to try to get under your skin just to detach you from your game. And we all know his game is not comparable to a lot of the trash talk that he dishes out. Now, me personally, there's been some comments here lately from Shaq in regards to Dillon Brooks, and the comments that he had about Dillon Brooks was very interesting. Even though they were harsh comments, but they were real comments, and they were very interesting at the same time because, in so many words, Shaq to me was speaking for a lot of other people out there, whether NBA people, fans, owners of teams, whoever. And, we all know here lately, the notion came out and the reports came out that the Memphis Grizzlies don't want anything to do with this guy going forward, because they said in their statement, under no circumstances do they want Dillon Brooks back on their roster. And, I found that to be kind of crazy, because my thing is, you've invited this. You've condoned this. The biggest problem on your team, and you listen to Shannon Sharpe on Undisputed, even he said it, the biggest problem on their team isn't gone yet. I mean, and I'm not saying he will be gone, but Ja Morant was the biggest problem, because he's the one that had the gun pointed at somebody and all those other things he was going through. And he tried to put it all on, mental health issues. But mental health issues, I mean, a lot of players in the NBA have mental health issues, but they're not going out drawing guns on people, having issues with security guards, and having all these type of problems outside of the basketball court, in which Ja Morant was having, in which we all know he was going through about a month or two ago. Then, he finds himself getting injured in the playoffs once again, just like he did last year, and stunting his team's growth from possibly going a little bit further. So, I mean, when you think about that, the problem with the Grizzlies is still in-house. Even though they got rid of Dillon Brooks, and they might think Dillon Brooks might be influencing Ja Morant, really, I believe it was the other way around. Ja Morant was influencing his teammates to talk trash and how they were carrying themselves, and they haven't won a damn thing. And this year they haven't won a damn thing, and they might not win nothing next year, depending on health and depending on how focused they are as a basketball team. But that has to be seen. That remains to be seen. So we don't know about that specifically. But listen to Shaq's comments. You can actually check it out on YouTube. You can go to his podcast where he talks about it as well. Shaq's comments about Dillon Brooks is, he started feeling himself, and, being around Ja Morant, living that high lifestyle, feeling like he's on top of the world, saying things, saying too much, and your game really isn't good enough to be doing all the talking that you're doing, because you're not a superstar. You're a little bit above average role player, but who can't score, and who is somewhat okay on defense when he shuts his mouth and actually play defense. But talking is something he's been doing these last couple seasons, or especially this season more than any, and really has gotten him in trouble. So Shaq was basically saying that all the things that he said up to now, and your game can't back it up. The organization's tired of you doing all this talking, and you're not producing the way they want you to. So now they tell you don't come back under any circumstance, because they think you are a cancer to the locker room. And to me, the icing on the cake was calling LeBron old and going at, the king like that. That was the icing on the cake to me. And now, like Shaq said, you possibly could find yourself out the league, because a lot of teams might not want anything to do with you or your services, because what you bring to a team is a lot of negativity based upon the way the Memphis Grizzlies are carrying this situation by saying they don't want you back under any circumstances. I mean, I can honestly say I can't remember any situation that any NBA player has ever had to go through that. I mean, I don't care what an NBA player has done. I mean, we've had incidences outside of basketball that NBA players have done throughout the years, and I've never seen a report or heard a report where a team doesn't want this person back under any circumstances. Like, they were just absolutely a cancer to the locker room, and he's the reason why, he's the influence on Ja Morant, other players in the locker room in a negative way, negative connotation, where they don't want the guy or his services back to that team. And it's like, wow, that sounds like a very, open and shut case, you know what I'm saying? Because they opened the case by putting that out there, and it's like it's all shut down now because they don't want this guy back for no reason, no way, no how. I mean, even if every other, player in his position, if anybody's free agent available, if all of them's taken, they still don't want Dillon Brooks back. I mean, that's basically what they're saying. Under no circumstance we want him back. We'll go without a player on our roster before we take him back. And it's like, it's such a huge wow. I mean, I don't even know what to say. It's like it's probably so demoralizing to Dillon Brooks by hearing that, especially with that notion out there, because it's like no player gets shut down that badly. You know what I'm saying? I haven't seen one in all my years of watching the NBA or basketball, period, or hell, really any sport that I could think of. So, I mean, that's a really, really it's a really crucial way or harsh way to put the nail in the coffin. But I think Shaq has a good point. There is a possibility Dillon Brooks might not be in the league, you know what I'm saying, going forward, because I don't see a lot of teams wanting his services. And then there was reports about Dillon Brooks saying that he wanted more of a role offensively with the Grizzlies, and they just don't see that in his game because he can't shoot threes that good. He was one of the worst three-point shooters earlier part of this season. He might have improved it very little, at the latter part of the season going to the playoffs, but I highly doubt it. And then on top of that, like I said, he's doing more talking and playing less defense now when you think about it. Whereas a few years ago, I say about 3 seasons ago, he was really actually playing defense really good, and he was like the Grizzlies' second best player. Now he's like maybe third or fourth, with Triple J there and Desmond Bane, stepping to the forefront. And I didn't think that, he really was satisfied with that. And I feel like that's where some of the confusion came in regards to, him possibly coming back to the Grizzlies as well. And like I said, when you do more talking and your game is really not at that level, you know what I'm saying, you really just put yourself in a position where, you're looked at like, oh, okay, there's this guy wanting more money, wanting more of a role offensively, who can't score, and now his defense has suffered because he's doing more talking than actually playing. Whereas a couple of seasons ago, I think he played for the Grizzlies a total of 6 seasons. I say about 3-4 seasons ago, he was a lot better player than what I see of him now. Now he's got to the point where he got a little money, he got a contract, with the Grizzlies, I think about a couple of seasons ago. And like I said, I should say, like Shaq said, you start feeling yourself too much and you think the world revolves around you, and it doesn't. You got to perform year after year, and you got to play harder, and you got to get better year after year for these teams to want to keep you around, and you got to be more productive year after year for these teams to want to keep you long term. And the fact that he's not like a superstar, well-established, type player in the league to that caliber, his wordplay is not going to take him but so far. Now, I hope he doesn't get kicked out of the league or anything like that, because I think some team can use his services. I think some team can, use what he has to help them. If he decides to go on the team and shut his mouth and play, I think he would be okay. But, regardless of that, he's not going back to the Grizzlies. That's a foregone conclusion, and he's going to have to try to find and make his way somewhere else. Or, I can possibly see a situation or scenario where he could be playing overseas. You never know. That could be a part of the equation too. I hope not for his sake, because it makes him look bad in a lot of ways, especially the fact he's still young and, he still should be able to be playing at a more of a higher level than what he did. But, I still don't blame him as the complete fall guy to the Grizzlies' downfall. The Grizzlies' downfall was a team thing. It's not just one guy. One guy, can only do but so much depending on how much you allow him to do. And I feel like the Grizzlies allowed a lot of that, or condoned a lot of that type of behavior for years. And I guess maybe now they're just fed up with it, especially the fact that, him making the headlines about speaking about LeBron James in the way he did a couple weeks ago, and they get knocked off in the playoffs and get embarrassed. And, it's just unsportsmanship and, sore loser type stuff going on. And maybe that's what the Memphis Grizzlies organization was trying to make an example out of, in which they don't want, which is the reason why they put all these statements out about Dillon Brooks and not wanting him back under any circumstances. But either way, hopefully this is a lesson learned for him. Hopefully if he does get another opportunity in the NBA, he'll go to another team and let his game do more talking than his mouth, because really that's how you shut up a lot of naysayers. And that's how you stay in this league a lot longer, by letting your game do the talking and let the analysts and all of them kind of sort of speak for you. You speak at times, when the media, after games, before games, all that type stuff. But doing too much talking really doesn't put you nowhere except in a bad position. And unless your game is at that level to where you can talk like that, now Ja Morant is really the problem on the Grizzlies. But as I just said, Ja Morant's game is good enough to do a lot of trash talking because he's the superstar on the team. He's the one they're building around, not Dillon Brooks. And I assume now Dillon Brooks knows that. And he should have already known that way before now. But, now the picture is clear. And now he's looking for another destination to go.